would you please rise? Today's invocation will be given by Carmen Ruiz Orr from the Apopka Area Chamber of Commerce. Carmen.
Please bow your heads. We thank you, Father God, that blessing is commanded by unity as we gather before you to do business in our great city. We thank you, Father, for our mayor and for our commissioners and for their hearts to serve. We ask you, Lord, for guidance and for wisdom as we make decisions here today. Father God, we ask that you give us grace to decrease in ourselves so that we can increase in you, Father. We ask that you cover and protect us in this time of transition. We thank you, Lord, that you will bring the right people to fill the voids and that our city will find favor in honoring you. We pray for our great nation, founded by your laws and covered by your love. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Carmen. On October 2nd, sorry, I'm going to have to put my eyes on. On October 2nd, 1967, Thurgood Marshall was sworn in as the first African-American justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. Before his appointment, Thurgood Marshall served as the NAACP's chief counsel from 1938 to 1961, during which time he argued more than a dozen cases before the U.S. Supreme Court. Justice Marshall successfully argued the Brown versus Topeka Board of Education case in 1954, which ended segregation in public education. This victory gave strength to the civil rights movement, eventually leading to the desegregation of public facilities and accommodations. And so today, as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance, let us remember men and women who, like Thurgood Marshall, dedicated their lives to the civil rights movement. Would you join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for our first meeting of the month. We have a policy here where we invite the public to speak. If you'd like to speak before the council, please fill out a comment card and of a notice of intent to speak and hand it to our city clerk. We ask that you limit your comments to 4 minutes if you're making general comments before the board, and we'll proceed on that basis. We're going to start our meeting today with, we have a series of employee recognitions, and we're going to start with Jimmy O. Philman. Jimmy began working for the city of Apopka on September 8th, 2009 as a police officer, which is his current position. He's celebrating his 5 years with the city. Congratulations. Next up, we have Steve Pop, who's celebrating his 10 years with the city of Apopka. Steve began working for the city of Apopka on September 7th, 2004 as a police officer, which is his current position. Next we have Jeff Wertz. Jeff is celebrating his 10 years with the city. Jeff began working for the city of Apopka on September 21st, 2004 as a police officer, which is his current position. Thank you for your service. Paul Downs. Paul began working for the city of Apopka as a police officer on September 7, 2004. He was promoted to police sergeant on December 4th, 2011, which is his current position. He's celebrating 10 years with the city of Apopka.
Thank you, Mark.
Jason Wiggins. Jason is celebrating his 15 years with the city of Apopka. Jason began working for the city on September 27th, 1999 as a police officer, which is his current position. Thank you for your service. Carlos Hernandez.
Thank you, Jay.
Carlos is also celebrating 15 years with the city. Carlos started working for the city on September 28th, 1999 as a utility service worker 2, which is his current position. Thank you for your service. All right, now we're getting to some serious hardware here. Melvin Jones. Melvin is celebrating 20 years with the city. Melvin began working for the city of Apopka on September 28, 1994 as a recreation leader. He was promoted to acting recreation supervisor on June 1st, 1996. On February 28, 1999, he was reclassified to maintenance worker 2 and transferred to grounds. Melvin was reclassified on April 15, 2003 to grounds specialist. On December 31, 2007, he was promoted to grounds foreman, which is his current position. And we have Ishmael Izagiri, who's not with us today. Is that correct? All right, Sharon Thornton, celebrating 25 years with the city. This, I think, is an emerald, right? Sharon began working for the city on September 5th, 1989 as a finance clerk. She was promoted on December 3rd, 1990 to personnel technician and transferred to personnel. On March 5th, 2001, Sharon was reclassified to payroll benefits manager. On October 16th, her title was changed to Human Resources Benefits Manager. She was promoted on May 3rd, 2005 to Human Resource Director, which is her current position. All right, now we're down to, like I said, some serious hardware. Chief Lee Bronson. George L. Bronson, as it says here. The fire chief is celebrating 40 years with the city of Apopka. Pretty impressive. Chief Bronson started working for the city on September 5th, 1974 as a firefighter. On October 5th, 1982, he was promoted to fire inspector. Lee's title changed to fire marshal on March 28th, 1983. He was promoted to assistant fire chief on June 7th, 1989. Lee was reclassified on October 27th, 2001 to deputy fire chief. On June 26th, 2006, his title changed to plans examiner. Then on May 23rd, 2007, he was promoted to Chief Fire Administrator for the Fire Department, which is his current position. Thank you for your time. Did you get the picture you wanted? Yeah? Okay. All right. Again, very impressive. Thank you, Chief. Next, we have a presentation. We have a proclamation on Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I'm going to read the presentation, and then we'll present the proclamation to Carol Wick, who is the Director of Harbor House. Whereas, in October 1987, the first Domestic Violence Awareness Month was observed. That same year marks the initiation of the first National Domestic Violence Toll-Free Hotline. In 1989, the U.S. Congress passed legislation designating October as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And whereas domestic violence is a pattern of assaultive and coercive behaviors, including physical, psychological, sexual, social isolation, stalking, and economic abuse, that individuals use to maintain power and control over their intimate partners. And whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's dignity, safety, and basic human rights. And whereas domestic violence is the single largest cause of injury and homicide for women. And whereas children who are exposed to domestic violence experience feelings of terror, isolation, guilt, helplessness, and grief, they have a higher risk of engaging in criminal behavior, substance abuse, and becoming crimes of victims in the community. And whereas it is incumbent upon every citizen to aid and assist those suffering from domestic abuse and let victims know that support is available. And whereas the Harbor House of Central Florida, the Apopka Police Department, the judicial system, and the medical community throughout Orange County are working together to develop solutions to this serious social problem and to implement effective services that will improve our responses and put an end to domestic violence. Now therefore, I, Joseph E. Kilsheimer, Mayor of Apopka, Florida, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2014 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the city of Apopka in accordance with the nationwide observance of the same, and encourage the citizens of Apopka to join this council in acknowledging and showing support for the victims of this horrible crime. Would you come up, Carolyn? We get a picture? Sure. Do you want me to come down? Or do you want to, let's all come down. Let's all come down. How about that? Set us up. Council in the back. Well, thanks very much. I know that you're very hard working now on improving the response to Apopka Police Department in helping address this issue of domestic violence. Appreciate your efforts and the efforts of the team to make this happen.
And I have to say that Harbor House is honored to be working with the Apopka Police Department. There is no better municipality that is more passionate and doing more to keep people safe than the Apopka Police Department. It's just an honor.
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Chief. All right. Can I take a picture?
Sorry.
Okay, great. Good? Okay. Thanks again. All right. Okay, the next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. We're going to pull item number 12 because it wasn't, the police department did not actually approve the application for to close that street. So we're going to pull item number 12. And I do understand that we do have somebody who would like to make a comment on item number 6. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor.
Can we get a motion first, Commissioner?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Ruth. Is there a second?
So before we approve it, I have some questions I'd like
Yes,
to
sir. Yes, sir. Okay. So motion by Commissioner Ruth. Second by Commissioner Aerosmith. Is there a discussion? Commissioner Ruth.
Item number 2.
Okay.
Would it be possible, the asphalt, the street restoration, obviously everybody wants to discuss that in the city. There's 22 locations that are in this project. Is there any way we can get a list of those 22 locations? I mean, just, everybody in the city, when they drive by, they want to know, is their street on that list? If I know that list, then I can inform them.
Cool. That's a copy for everybody? Okay.
We still have a 5-year program, don't we, or do we?
Yes, we haven't done the street citizen for a while.
But it's not limited to this list, in other words.
It's only for that day.
I know, okay. So there is an additional list, though, that, for Commissioner Ruth's question there, as far as,
We'll have additional list, then we'll have something in this year budget.
yes.
Did that answer your question?
That was perfect. That was great. Now, I have another question, but Commissioner Dean, I don't want to be rude.
Thanks.
Go ahead and pose your question.
Item number 7.
Yes, sir.
Item number 7, that's
John?
all state paving. That's the improvement to Lester.
Correct.
Obviously, everybody in the city has a lot of discussion about that road. I get an earful of it. That's the road I go to church. So
Okay.
everybody seems to want to complain about it.
Well,
The question I have is, who hired the geo survey? Is that the city doing that, or is that the contractor?
No, the city does the geotechnical.
Because somewhere in there, if you have 4,900 feet of surface that needed additional demucking, is that not the purpose of that
Okay.
survey?
If you look at the condition of the site, that was a big lake, big area. We cannot, the geotechnical could not get access to it completely. And he stated in the report, because he could not get equipment because the depths of it in the market. And he estimated. And when they started construction, during the construction, some area, it is in the middle, the mark was a lot more than what estimated. We were not able, the geotechnical were not able to get equipment all the way to that area to be able to do boring in that area.
so because of if I understand what you're saying, because of the site conditions,
Right.
the consultant that did the testing and the estimating in terms of the muck removal was not able to get out into the middle of it in order to be able to provide an accurate estimate
And he
for the
stated-
amount of material that needed to be removed,
Right.
correct?
Yes, and he stated in the report, so.
I mean, we're talking $138,000. That's,
Well, yes, it's a very complicated project.
and I
Very
understand.
hard project, and we encountered over 40 feet of muck in some area. And also, if you're familiar with this site, on the south side of that area, we have the park, they have that pond. And that pond was overflowing most of the time to that area. So it did not made it more complicated.
Yeah, and you go a quarter mile south of it, and water oozes out of because the
Yeah.
hard pan's all the way to the top surface.
Right, if you
I
go,
know the area quite well.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that the difference between Allstate Paving, when I first started down this road, I wanted to make sure that Allstate Paving and the second bidder, I wanted to know what their obligations were on it, and then that's when I stumbled into the surveying.
no, that the cost of the additional cost was a lot higher to that contractor, what
Yeah.
we settled with.
Well, I think what the price that you're seeing has been negotiated
Way
hard down to the
Right.
to the number that you see here.
Right.
Okay.
Are they still going to come back in the future? I asked that question a couple meetings ago because of the condition. It wasn't that smooth, and the answer I had them was they're going to let it go for 6 months or something to see how everything's settled, and then come in and put a final coat. Or is this the final coat?
This will be the final coat. What we do is the outside lane, we'll mill it, and we'll keep the milling, and we'll go ahead and put the final coat.
This is for fixing ultimately Lester Road, correct?
Right. That will,
So-
the outside.
so-
That will be the final.
So when this cap's put on, that's pretty much going to
We're done, yes,
close that out.
right.
And the final one was item number 13. Is the renewal to Motorola, is that just because the equipment is unique to the city, or is it?
No,
There was a time I carried around a 10-pound Motorola phone, but now I carry around it weighs a couple ounces. It's better than my computer.
This is akin to paying our annual AAA membership for our radio system. So when we sign this maintenance agreement, we have the right to call Motorola when we have a problem.
But it's only Motorola, correct? It's for unique that only Motorola can.
Motorola is our equipment provider, so it is with Motorola to maintain the equipment that we purchase from Motorola. Correct?
Okay, it's a $700,000 contract, so I just wanted to make sure that we were being good stewards.
I've asked the same questions that you've asked this week.
That's the end of my question.
Commissioner Dean.
Yes. It's ironic that, Sammy, you and myself had the same concerns about the two issues that you brought up, but I have several questions. What is the status of minority hiring practices? How is that going?
I'll say that's on us. That's on myself and the city attorney and the new city administrator. When we get a new administrator aboard, we're going to tackle that as one of our first issues. We've had because of the transition that we've been going through, we just haven't been able to pick that one up yet.
Well, I hope that you will have that on the first agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
The next thing is, I noticed here where the bids for this $358,000 whatever contract.
For which one?
I think it's number 7 on the.
For Lester Bro.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do contractors, if they're local, get extra points if they're a little, say, $10,000, $15,000 more than out-of-state contractors?
We do have a local preference.
On purchasing.
Can you describe that?
Yeah, we have 1% on purchasing, but we don't have them on large contract sealed bid. We don't have a construction contract, but we use the 1%.
So is there a threshold amount? Like above a certain amount where we don't do the local preference?
No, we don't. For purchasing, we do have 1%.
I know, I've seen on the purchase of vehicles,
Right.
where we bid out the purchase of vehicles. If a local Apopka vendor exceeds the lowest bid by 1%, we can go to that Apopka vendor, even though they've exceeded the lowest bid, if it's within 1% of the lowest bid. So.
But I'm looking out for the people who live here in Apopka.
Correct.
I noticed that you gave the bid to a construction company in Massachusetts, which is $310,000, and you had Range Construction Company right there in Winter Garden, who had a low bid of, and I felt that $10,000 more would not give the people out of Massachusetts the bid. I'm thinking about the people here in Apopka and Winter Garden, Ocoee, etc., that need jobs. Why do we go all the way up to Massachusetts and take a company? And they will bring people, I assume, I don't know, I assume they will bring people to do the work down here.
It is, all those construction, they are sealed bid. We advertise for them. And also, a lot of those companies, you may see their main office at another state or another city, but another state. But a lot of them, they do have a division in here. A lot of those, what you're talking about, they have a crew in here. They have a people hired locally, and especially those big company. Which project you talking about?
This is, I think he's talking about, agenda item number 3, which is, the award for the asphalt street resurfacing to
The
Middlesex.
asphalt is a local. Middlesex is a local.
Middlesex,
It is a local company. And also, the guy who will be doing the work, the superintendent, live in Apopka.
If they're local, why do you have a Massachusetts address?
that's what the corporate headquarters is.
Oh, that's the
They may
headquarters.
have the headquarters. But they done work for us before. They're locals. They do a lot of work in subdivision and here in Southern Florida.
That clears up my feelings about letting contracts.
Right?
Okay?
Yeah.
Any other questions from the council? Sunita, I understood that you wanted to speak on item number 6. Is that okay? Would you like to come up now? Thank you, John. And just remember, 4 minutes.
Okay, the clock's not started, sir.
All time.
Okay, Tanita Reed, 651 O'Leary Court, Apopka. I would like to address the cost of the 6-foot concrete precast wall to be placed along North Main Street and to be paid for by the citizens of the subdivisions there with the imposed special assessments on their annual property tax bills for the next 20 years. I believe the cost of this wall is over $250,000, and to me that's excessive. The exact cost is $259,261. There was only one sealed bid, no others, so how does the staff know that this is a good price and is not excessive? Why is the bidding period not extended when only one bid is received? Also, why a precast wall? Was that what was put out to bid on? Who determined a precast wall was needed on that? And why was it accepted? Could a masonry wall have been built from the ground up cheaper? I noticed the one bid on the Northwest Complex to excavate the dirt to make a storage pond working on 22 acres was, well, I can't even read my writing. What was that? That was $1,685,120. That bid was rejected. That was one bid too. And the city would pay for those costs. Plus, they would sell the dirt also to make money back, so that's not a true figure because some of it would come back. That bid was rejected. This bid only for just 2,775 linear square feet of wall at over $250,000 that the homeowners will have to pay was accepted. Now, I want to know if the city staff is looking after those citizens' interests in these subdivisions like they are looking out for the city of Apopka's interests, because to me it doesn't seem so. And also I'd like to say I saw Fox News down there below where I live down there at Martin Place, and they was talking, it said a tax hike in Apopka. I noticed that was right across there, tax hike in Apopka. Now, not this city attorney, the one that sat in for him said that it wasn't a tax, that it was an assessment, but to me, when you put it on a tax bill, it becomes a tax. I mean, I could argue all day about it, but I'm not a lawyer, but to me it's a tax. And they knocked on the door down there. I heard about, all these people calling the city and thanking them for these assessments, but the news anchor that was out there reporting that day, he went to one of the doors and knocked on the door, and the homeowner come to the door, and she said she thought it was too much. So I just wanted to say there's two sides to everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanita. Hold on. Well, just let me respond. I do know, I've spoken to Chuck Fabric, who's been in charge of this program for us. I know that he searched far and wide for as many bidders as he could find, and I do believe that the cost of masonry brick wall built from the ground up would have been far more expensive than this precast wall. This precast wall is going to come in pieces, and they're going to be able to build it faster and replace what is essentially this has been just a horrible situation along there. So I think, again, just in looking at this from the big picture, we are working to help stand up homeowners associations that have gone out of business, are not actively supported by the residents there, making living conditions for the people who live there just horrible. And we're stepping in to try to help the residents there bring back some aesthetic quality to their communities, with the ultimate goal of being able to turn these homeowners associations back over to the residents. So,
could I ask something on that?
Sure.
Same token there. I thought about that also. It did seem like a big number. Is there any particular reason why we couldn't use the heavy gauge PVC like the city puts up, like we did down Shopkey Road, or like we did down Lester Road? We just when we completed that, is there a reason we couldn't do that, or?
We continue to have problems down Lester Road where the kids are going and kicking it in. As you're aware, that particular area is right there at the high school too, so I'm sure if they're kicking it in down Lester Road, we're going to run into the same problem. When we did go out for bid, we looked at two ways of doing it. One would be the brick wall. Brick wall estimate roughly was about $130 per linear foot. This comes in a little bit over $90 a linear foot. So we did do our due diligence in trying to get a bidder. We initially put the bid out, didn't have a bid, so we had to find our bid documents, and finally found a company that is doing work over in Seminole County and so forth in the same situation, and that's Seminole Wall, and they came back with a bid.
I will just say, I caught 3 kids kicking that fence on Lester. I mean, they kicked right through it and left 3 panels on the thing. We stopped and tried to read them the riot act, but they weren't having any of it. So
we were looking for the long-term effect, that it'd be a long-term wall that's going to be there, and hopefully the maintenance won't be there, but it's got to be repetitively replaced over the years.
Okay. Any other questions on the consent agenda? Any other comments? Would you come forward, Sue? Right. Okay. Name and address for the record.
Susan Shetram, 1810 Cranberry Osway, Apopka. At the September 3rd meeting of the council, the ordinance 2377 was approved. And I suspect that if I had read that ordinance before the meeting, I'd have probably voted to approve it also. But after hearing Tanita speak, I think the consequences of that ordinance are appalling. Homeowners in her development are being assessed, I think she said approximately $500 per household, which they cannot afford to improve property within the development. Some homeowners there have abandoned their homes, and the homeowners association, as you mentioned, was dissolved years ago. So the neighborhood definitely is in serious need of repair. If this had been my neighborhood, I would have rallied my neighbors. I would have said, you take care of that yard, I'll take care of this yard. I'll make sure it's mowed, there's no trash in it, the place will look half decent. I don't know if they did that or not. But the responsibility for those properties is definitely not that of the current residents. The responsibility is that of the homeowners that abandon their homes and the banks holding the mortgages. We all know what happens when we have taxation without representation in this country. This is not the case. This, I think, is taxation or assessment without fairness. I believe that the city needs to take another look at this issue and find another way to fund the project. It's difficult, I know, to locate owners of abandoned homes and force them to pay, but it is possible to locate the banks and insist that they maintain the property. My neighbors and I did it because of a property down the street from my house. So I think the city of Apopka could probably do that too. and help these people out. That's what I wanted to say about that. The other thing I wanted to say was, I think I know where you can maybe get the money for it. Highland Manor, absolutely gorgeous the way it is. I don't think we need to spend whatever money to make that a town center and put things up, and it's just a beautiful setting the way it is. I think we just walk away and take any money we were going to spend and help these people out.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Sue. And just again in response, I think among the people who know you, and I know you, you are an extraordinary community organizer and have the ability to rally people to a cause, right? I think in the case of these communities that we're talking about, Cimarron Hills and Mainline Village and the other one, Main Avenue Villas or something like that, we have exhausted all of those possibilities that you described. Do you want to come up, Chuck?
Mayor, I just want to make it for the record. These aren't individual properties. These are common properties
Got it.
that we own by the homeowner association.
Okay, all right. Well, just to go back to the discussion that Sue had, we mailed certified mail to every single property owner. In the case of at least one of these subdivisions, the majority of these are not owned by homeowners. They're owned by investors who don't even live in Apopka. And those people have abandoned them. And we've reached out to every... This is the product of not just a couple months' worth of work. This is the product of years of work by the staff of the city of Apopka to, number one, address this issue along the same lines that you've already suggested. We've been there, done that, in terms of trying to create an atmosphere of cooperation, trying to work with those individual homeowners. It didn't work. And so, because it didn't work, we then said, we've got a number of people who are living there. Conditions are horrible. We can't get the cooperation of the property owners. What are we going to do next? So this is the solution that we came up with. And by the way, this ordinance that was passed is the product of at least a year's worth of work that I know of just to pass the ordinance alone. That's in addition to all of the work that was done prior to trying to get these subdivisions to turn around. So we're kind of all here talking about it now because it's on the agenda and it's in front of us. But we're talking about 3, 4, 5 years worth of work to bring us to the point where we are today. Okay? All right. Any further discussion from the public regarding the consent agenda? Discussion from the council? If not, we'll vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. We're going to go to a series of ordinances. Ordinances number 2378 to 2385 meet the requirements for adoption, having been duly advertised in the Apopka Chief on September 19th, 2014. We'll move to the first one, ordinance number 2378. Would you please read the title?
Ordinance number 2378, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida to vacate a portion of platted right-of-way located east side of Binion Road, south of Orange Blossom Trail, west of Willett Avenue, providing directions to the city clerk for severability for conflicts and an effective date.
Okay, we're going to open ordinance number 2378 for a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on ordinance number 2378? If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council, and the chair would entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2378.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Aerosmith. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dean. Is there any further discussion? Any discussion by the public? If not, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next one is ordinance number 2379. Would you please read the title?
Ordinance number 2379, An ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida to extend its territorial and municipal limits to annex pursuant to Florida Statute 171.044, the hereinafter described lands situated and being in Orange County, Florida, owned by Jason M. Lee, located at 2300 West Concan Road, providing for directions to the city clerk, severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Okay, we're going to open ordinance number 2379 for a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on ordinance number 2379? If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council, and the chair would entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2379.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Ruth,
Second.
second by Commissioner Velasquez. Any further discussion by the council? Any discussion by the public? If not, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Ordinance number 2380, would you please read the title?
Ordinance number 2380, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida to extend its territorial and municipal limits to annex pursuant to Florida Statute 171.044, the hereinafter described lands situated and being in Orange County, Florida, owned by Metzler Family Trust, located at 2133 Vic Road, providing for directions to the city clerk, severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Okay, we're going to open up ordinance number 2380 for a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on ordinance 2380? If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council, and the chair would entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2380.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Velasquez, second by Commissioner Aerosmith. Is there any further discussion? Any discussion by the public? If not, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Ordinance number 2381, would you please read the title?
Ordinance number 2381, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida to extend its territorial and municipal limits to annex pursuant to Florida Statute 171.044, the hereinafter described land situated and being in Orange County, Florida, owned by Property Industrial Enterprises, LLC, located at 320 and 328 West 2nd Street, providing for directions to the city clerk, severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Okay, we're going to open up ordinance number 2381 for a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on ordinance number 2381? If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council, and the chair would entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2381.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Dean,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ruth.
I'm going to abstain from this one.
Okay. Any further discussion from the public? If not, we'll vote by roll call. Commissioner Ruth.
Yay.
Commissioner Velasquez.
Aye. Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Yay.
Commissioner Dean.
Don't you call me Lou?
I'm sorry. Commissioner Dean.
Yes.
The chair votes aye. The motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Aerosmith abstaining. He'll file the proper paperwork. Okay, ordinance number 2382. Would you please read the title?
Ordinance number 2382, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida to extend its territorial and municipal limits to annex pursuant to Florida Statute 171.044, the hereinafter described lands situated and being in Orange County, Florida, owned by Dewar Keene 40 LLC, located at 632 West Keene Road, providing for directions to the city clerk, severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Okay, we're going to open ordinance number 2382 for a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on ordinance number 2382? If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. The chair would entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2382. Motion by Commissioner Aerosmith. Second by Commissioner Dean. Any further discussion from the council? Any discussion by the public? If not, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Ordinance number 2383. Would you please read the title?
Ordinance number 2383, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida to extend its territorial and municipal limits to annex pursuant to Florida Statute 171.044, the hereinafter described land situated and being in Orange County, Florida, owned by Alexander E. and Mary E. Dewar, located at 205 and 251 East Keene Road, providing for directions to the city clerk, severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Okay, we're going to open ordinance 2383 for a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on ordinance 2383? If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Is there any, the chair would entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2383.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Velasquez.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ruth. Any further discussion from the council? Discussion from the public? If not, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Ordinance 2384, would you please read the title?
Ordinance number 2384, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, to extend its territorial and municipal limits to annex pursuant to Florida Statute 171.044, the hereinafter described lands situated and being in Orange County, Florida, owned by the City of Apopka, located at 225 West Keene Road, providing for directions to the city clerk's severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Okay, is it East Keene or West Keene?
West Keene, sorry. 225 West Keene Road.
I have East Keene Road in the
Yeah.
document in front of me.
The title says West Keene Road
Title on the,
ordinance.
in the, on the packet.
Yeah. Yeah, the ordinance itself, it says West Keene Road.
David or Jay, could you help us with this? West? Is it West for sure, Rogers? Okay, all right. We're going to go with West Keene, which is what you said, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going to open up ordinance 2384 for a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on ordinance number 2384? If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. The chair would entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2384.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Ruth, second by Commissioner Aerosmith. Is there any further discussion by the council?
Yeah.
Any discussion by the public? If not, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Ordinance number 2385, would you please read the title?
Ordinance number 2385, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, changing the zoning from R1A 0 to 5 dwelling units per acre to AGE 0 to 5 dwelling units per acre for certain real property generally located east of Lakeville Road, west of North Hiawassee Boulevard, and north of Foxwood Court, 2277 Lakeville Road, comprising 9.86 acres more or less, and owned by Alan Akbar Alley, a.k.a. All Al Akbar Alley, providing for directions to the Community Development Director, severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Okay, we're going to open up ordinance number 2385 for a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on ordinance number 2385? If not, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. The chair would entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2385.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Aerosmith. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dean. Any further discussion by the council? Discussion from the public? If not, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, no site approvals, no department reports and bids. We're down to the mayor's report, and I have a number of items that I'd like to bring before the council. Number one, we received a letter of thank you from Ashley Moore for the flowers that the city sent her after the birth of her baby girl recently. We're all wishing Ashley the best and awaiting her return. I also want to let the council know that B. Frankie retired with the city yesterday on September 30th, 2014. She celebrated her 26th year with the city in June, and we'll all miss B and her steady hand. We also, as we previously mentioned, Jan Goebel, our city clerk, announced her intention to retire from the city as of October 31st, 2014. And with the retirement of Richard Anderson, Jan has agreed to perform the interim duties of city administrator and until her retirement, and so she's vacating her position as city clerk. I don't believe we require a ratification vote for Jan to be the city administrator, but Mr. Shepard, is that something that should we have if we're going to appoint an interim? We don't need a ratification vote, do we?
What I recall is that the ratification involves the amount of payment, and I don't think in a month's time we're going to get to that number.
Okay, very good. All right. And so Jan is taking a well-deserved vacation in North Carolina, and she'll be back in about a week or so. But we do have to appoint a new city clerk, and I've decided to appoint our deputy clerk, Linda Goff, as the new city clerk of Apopka. Let me just give me a little bit of background about Linda. Linda began her role in government working for the city of Cape Coral in the city clerk's office before she and her family moved to Apopka. She served as deputy city clerk for the city of Longwood for 7 years and started as deputy city clerk for the city of Apopka in 2010. Linda has obtained her CMC, Certified Municipal Clerk Certification, and is currently working on her MMC, Master Municipal Clerk Certification. She is a member of the International Institute of Municipal Clerks and the Florida Association of City Clerks, where she has served on the Bylaws and Manual Revisions Committee. Linda started her career in the medical field, working in medical records for 19 plus years, and she took courses to obtain her accreditation as an accredited records technician. She and her family moved to Florida in 1988, at which time she took some time off to fulfill her most important job as mom. Linda is married to Bob Goff, and they have 2 grown children and 4 grandsons. And at this point, I would solicit a motion from the council to ratify Linda Goff as our new city clerk.
So moved.
So moved, and second.
Motion by Commissioner Ruth, seconded by Commissioner Velasquez. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion from the public? If not, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And please join me in welcoming Linda Goff as our new city clerk. And I just say that we're very blessed in the city of Apopka to have somebody so capable already on staff with the city to be able to step into this role. And Jan can go off into retirement knowing that we're in good hands, and she can enjoy her retirement and not have to worry that much about us. The other thing that I want to let the council know is we're going to need to fill the deputy clerk's position, and we have somebody, again, on staff who is very capable of serving in that role, and we've agreed that Susan Bone, who currently works as an assistant to Chuck Bavrick, who's worked for the city for some years, will serve in the position of deputy clerk. Okay? And Susan's not here, is she? Okay. I wanted to let everybody know that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Everybody who is wearing a pink shirt in the audience, and we'll ask you to contribute. If you're wearing a pink shirt and you work for the city of Apopka, it's a pink shirt and blue jeans, right, Chief? Pink shirt and blue. If you wear a pink shirt, you're entitled to wear blue jeans, but everybody who's doing that is contributing $5 into a kitty. And so far today, we've raised more than $300, right? We're going to do this every Wednesday for the month of October. And when we get to the end, whatever amount that the City of Apopka employees raise, we're going to match from the City of Apopka, and we're going to donate to the Debbie Turner Cancer Center. So at our next council meeting on October 15th, wearing pink would be highly appropriate. But bring your wallets.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate if you could ask all the cancer survivors that are here in the audience to stand.
That's a good suggestion. If there are any cancer survivors in the room, would you please stand to be recognized? Thanks very much for that suggestion. I also want to let the council know that two projects of significance are moving forward on the same hearing schedule. One is the Sandpiper Road development that we heard about at our last meeting. The other is the Florida Hospital Master Plan. And the staff earlier has raised some concerns about the fact that these two major projects are going to be heard at the same time, and that would leave us insufficient room in the chambers for the audience that we're expecting. So I'm proposing the following, that on November 5th we would hold a second advertised council meeting at 3:30 p.m. for Florida Hospital, and that Sandpiper Road would remain on the 1:30 p.m. agenda. And on November 19th, we would hold our first advertised meeting at 6:30 p.m. for Florida Hospital, and the second meeting at 8 p.m. on its regular agenda, which would include the Sandpiper Road project. And so, unless there are objections from the council, we're going to proceed on that basis.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? November 5th is?
November 5th, we'll hold we have a 1:30 meeting already, right? But we're going to advertise that the Florida Hospital meeting will begin at 3:30, and that way there will be a time certain. We should be able to conclude our meeting on Sandpiper Road, in the 2 hours between 1:30 and 3:30. Okay. So at 3:30, we would hold a time certain for Florida Hospital.
Okay.
And then on November the 19th, our time certain for Florida Hospital would be at 6:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would begin our regular meeting at 8 p.m.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay? Any objections? All right. We'll proceed on that basis. All right. The item that has been of some considerable discussion in the city of Apopka over the last couple of weeks has been the contract that we approved with Richard Anderson 2 weeks ago. I know that lots of people have had something to say to me about it, and I would expect that all of our elected officials have heard quite a bit about it. I know that there may be people in the audience that want to raise a concern with that today, and so we're prepared to hear that. I just want to kind of clarify from my perspective where I stand on this whole issue of, first of all, approving the contract and the kind of numbers that we talked about. I do think it's important for everybody to remember that this was an idea that Richard proposed to us. And he proposed it to us as a way of allowing us to maintain continuity on the projects that he's already launched and started, projects that I believe are that are important to the future success of Apopka. And at the same time, it's also clear that there was an employment agreement that Richard had that was negotiated with Mayor Land, and the numbers in that employment agreement are what they are. We could have fought about it. We had considerable discussion about it. We could have fought about it. That would have been more divisive and more expensive. And in the end, the numbers being what they are, I chose to go with the course that was less divisive, that maintained continuity on these projects, and that allowed us to move forward in as smooth a course as possible. And that's the course that I proposed to the Commission 2 weeks ago. So again, I'm prepared to hear all comments about this, but that's my position, and I'd welcome any input from the council at this time. Anything?
I guess the only thing I would have to say about it is, and obviously, we're still all a little upset about not getting a copy of it until 3 hours before the meeting, which it is what it is. But when I did get it, obviously trying to scan through 12 pages of it in that short period of time, I assumed that with the new numbers that we were offering him for the 2-year agreement, that we were all in on that deal. I would have thought that with 2 attorneys and yourself, there would have been some pretty serious negotiations going on during the month, and obviously we didn't know anything about it. But I would have thought there would have been negotiations going on, and you obviously knew what the buyout number was of $350,000 or whatever that was. you would have known that during the month, and it seems like that would have been negotiated into this new 2-year agreement so that we could come up with a more rational number, I would call it.
That was a subject of some discussion.
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, that would have had a major bearing on my thoughts that night. And as I say, I had a very short window there to think about all this, and I probably thought about most of the key issues about 3 o'clock the next morning. But that in particular, once I found out about it a week later, there again, from an outside source, I just was stunned by it, because I felt like that should have really been considered in this 2-year agreement that we did. It's a very, very lucrative agreement without the other payout. And I just felt like that there was a serious issue there that could have been negotiated much better and on our behalf, and I don't feel like it was. I just feel like that we were, and we should have known. I would have thought maybe you would have brought that up that night, the fact that he's retiring as soon as this meeting's over. He's retired, and by the way, with his retirement, we've got 6 months to give him his $350,000, but we're going to give it to him, in 6 days. But I would have thought that issue would have come up then, so that we would have said, wait a minute, let's look at the total number between the 2-year agreement and the buyout. So that's, in a nutshell, that's all I...
Okay, all right. Commissioner Ruth?
Well, obviously, I just want to know how we got in that situation in the first place. Was the first contract ever ratified? Or can you negotiate a contract without it being ratified?
Well, that contract was negotiated in 2011, before I got here. Again, it was one of those things where, we could have gone down that road, and quite honestly, it was my judgment that if we had gone down that road, that we would have fought about it. There would have been a battle that would have been emotionally divisive. It would have been legally costly, and it would have been, in my view, not productive from doing the business of the city of Apopka and moving forward. I think we could have done that, but it would have. It just wasn't. It wasn't, in my view, the productive way to go or the best course. So, again, all of those are reasonable questions to talk about, and they're questions that you can certainly ask. But when you get to a certain point, when you play that question out, then you're gonna. If one side, and by the way, as Commissioner Aerosmith kind of made the point, we did negotiate those numbers, and the negotiation was it was a tough negotiation. There was no shortage of ideas that went back and forth and statements that went back and forth, and we tried to get the best deal that we knew that we could get without having to fight about it. So, I'm completely sympathetic to all of the questions that have been raised because the numbers are big numbers, clearly. I understand that. But I also understand that the numbers are the numbers, and the numbers were the numbers that were in the previous employment agreement, and we would have been obligated to address that no matter what choice, no matter what option we went down.
The biggest stinger in the whole thing, every employee past and present has a $6,000 cap. And you've allowed one person to cash in on the max of every sick hour they ever worked. Whereas every past employee and every employee that's here today has a ceiling capped at $6,000. And the difference between the $6,000 and the $385 is the thing that concerns me the most. Because the reason for that is, and I keep going back to the fact that we set a precedence on that one, and there's still other contracts out there.
Correct, and those other contracts are invoked if we terminated those people, those individuals or terminated them without cause.
Then we're assuming that every one of them was ratified.
Well, not yet, because we haven't. We know that that wasn't brought before the council. So, again, without necessarily going down that road, going down that divisive road, the thing that I've said is I'm not firing anybody. I've said that, a dozen times, or more than a dozen times. I'm not firing anybody. So, if we're not going to fire anybody, we're not invoking the clauses in those contracts. We don't have to have a fight.
There wouldn't have been a fight. There was no firing. There was a retirement, and by the way, we're going to give you, $380,000 on top, whereas every other retiree was capped at $6,000.
I hear what you're saying. We could have fought. I chose the way that I thought was the most productive, most beneficial to all of the citizens and taxpayers of Apopka. I chose what I thought was the best way forward. Anyone else?
I have a question, because I've actually gone through the whole thing also. Was at the end with H, where it says term of the contract starts, it says the term of this agreement shall commence on September 15th and continue through September 14th. Yet this was presented to us on the 7th.
That's right. We did have, those amounted to basically scrivener's errors. That was, so we annotated changes on the final version that was signed.
So that means that on September 15th, we already knew
September
about this.
17th.
Yeah, but it was presented on the 17th. But that means that on September 15th, this was already agreed upon.
That was the version. There was a non. I wanted to have certain meetings with certain people, so that I could authentically say that all of the projects that we were talking about were projects that were going to come about. And I had that last meeting the afternoon of the 17th. So.
All right, so that brings me then to term number I, remedies, which, since I'm not a lawyer, I've read it a few times, and it says, okay, this is the one. Okay, I, number A, for any default or early termination by, and that would be Richard Anderson, payment to the city as liquidated damages, an amount equal to twice the total monthly retainers referenced in paragraphs C and D above, for each month of the remaining term of the initial 2-year term, or of each month of any written extension. So I don't quite understand what that means. Is the city going to pay him? I don't understand what
Cliff,
that
can
means.
you help us with that?
Yeah. We call that it's almost like a pre-understanding of what happens if you guys part ways in context of not a friendly parting of the ways. And if he leaves us without us saying that we want him to go because we want him to finish, for example, the project, then he has to pay us twice the amount we would pay him for the remaining months of his deal. Similarly, if we get fed up with him for a non-cause reason, then it's the same. So it goes both ways. What it does is it keeps him from abandoning us. One of the big issues that was discussed with the mayor was that you have these ongoing projects that have the potential impact, as I understand it, of being transformative to your community. I'm still obviously getting my feet wet in terms of what is and isn't, but I understand that there's a downtown redevelopment, there's a potential hospital, there's a number of other things that are major projects in which he's deeply involved and is in a position to bring some, if not all of them, to fruition during this 2-year period. And so that way we know we're getting what we're paying for, or else he's going to be paying us if we have to find somebody else.
Okay.
And it goes the other way too. If we say, hey, you know what, we'd rather have somebody else, and he hasn't done anything improper, then it goes the other way as well.
Okay.
Any other comments by the council?
Mr. Mayor.
Look at me.
I'm, looking just in this general direction,
Oh, well,
Commissioner.
you didn't call my name.
Well, you're welcome to speak up.
I am. I have nothing to offer.
Hold on one second.
I have nothing to offer. It's over, it's done, move on with more important things for this city to move forward. I have nothing else to offer about Richard and his salary. It's over and done.
Thank you, Commissioner Dean. Commissioner Ruth.
Now, last council meeting, we ratified the second contract, but in the contract, the term employee is there. Is he an employee? Is he an LLC?
No.
Is he an agent?
He's an outside independent contractor. He is, and the word is employed. The city can employ outside independent contractors, but that does not make him an employee per se.
So he has no legal
Correct.
ramifications with any employee, a direction?
Outside contractor.
Outside contract only. So he wouldn't follow fall under any of the Florida statutes pertaining contractual agreements between contractor and employer.
He is an outside contractor, selected by the city under what's called the evaluated source provisions of our policies and procedures, and will operate as an outside independent contractor. Okay? All right. At this time, anybody from the public who would like to comment on this? Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Vic Bakanoff. I live in Pines of Wekiva. We have a lot of discussion up that way about things, and along the lines of the discussion that's going on right now, it concerns me that all of a sudden Apopka is coming up with big salaries. I don't say that you don't deserve yours, because if you're going to do this 100% of the time, fine. Then why do we need a project manager and someone to tell you how to run the city? I have total faith in you, or I wouldn't have voted that way. Okay, I have total faith in you. But I'm getting concerned with the fact that all of a sudden somebody retires, but he's going to be retained. And he's going to be retained at close to $1 million in taxpayers' money. When you take into consideration a $285,000 vacation package. My father, who was a very competent businessman, made a statement. He once told me that any one of his employees that never takes a vacation and never takes a sick day doesn't want someone sitting at his desk looking at his paperwork. Now, it's a true statement. Don't tell me that someone can work that long and never take a vacation. Don't tell me, who's been in the hospital so many times, I think my cardiologist is driving a Lamborghini that I paid for. But I don't want to see the taxpayers pay for someone to make more money than 10 people who live in this city aren't making at all. $22,000 a month to be a lobbyist. I'll throw my hat in the ring. I'm a certified lobbyist. I'll do it for $50,000 a year and forget about the expense account. Because I know how to write an expense account. Figures don't lie, liars figure. But there's something that has to be considered. This money is not coming. I've looked in stores, I've looked everywhere for gold. There is no gold. We work hard for our money around here. And you guys work hard, and I appreciate every one of you. Believe me, I'm glad to see Linda get promoted. It's just fantastic. We do recognize people who worked here. But Joe, I'm not happy at all with the package that you passed off, whoever passed it off, for Mr. Anderson. I have nothing against him. He might be the best man in the world. But if I ask him to tell me what is the fifth canon of a lobbyist, paragraph 4, I defy him to tell me if he's sitting here today. I know what it is because I've worked as a lobbyist, I've worked as a arbitration judge, I'm now retired, and my cardiologist just gave me a defibrillator implant, which says I'm bored again, which means I got to go 85 more years. So I'll be here for a while. But that's all I have to say. I'm very upset with certain things. I didn't care about your salary. It was worth it. Believe me, I don't care about what they pay the commissioners. It's worth it. But I do care about what one person can make when I know that 3 people would do the same job for less.
Thank you, Beck.
I see that's my fedora. I know Lambert behind you.
All right. Anyone else from the public?
Thank you.
Tanita?
Yes, I'm surprised about the 2 retirement packages I heard about. Now, my husband worked here at the city, and he worked here just shy of 27 years, and he retired, I believe it was last day of, or the end of September in 2009. He went out with 22 other employees because the city said at that time they needed to save money, and they offered a retirement package to all the older ones that had, I won't say old, the older ones that had been there and were vested and, could retire. So he went out then. And it was to be a great savings for the city. And I'm glad he did go out. But I didn't have any idea that any city employee could, understand the double dipping, they retire, and the thing was they were to wait a year and then come back and go back to work, and some of them the same job, and I'm assuming some of them the same salary that they left on. I think it was supposed to be at the bottom of the scale, but that's beside the point. And I understand the double dipping, I do. But I did not know there was such a thing as 2 retirements from the same place. So what I want to know is Richard Anderson getting 2 Prudential checks each month? Is it all in one? But either way, it's 2 retirements, and I think that's outrageous. And I want to know if there's any other city employees here getting 2 retirement packages, because this is what wasn't something that my husband was aware of when he went out to save the city money.
All right. It is possible to work for the city of Apopka in one department and earn a pension within that department and go to another department, as has happened in more than one case in more than one individual with the city, go to work for another department and qualify for a pension as a result of employment in that other department. So there are a small number of departments or a small number of individuals who, because of their long tenure in different departments for the city, have qualified under the rules that govern everybody. The rules don't change from individual to individual. The rules are the rules for everybody. But because of their tenure, are qualifying for pensions from different departments. So as far as I'm concerned, if you've met the rules, worked according to the rules, qualified under the rules that everybody has to live by, then I don't feel like I can begrudge those people what they have earned. So and I think City of Apopka is a little bit unique in that respect, in that we've had the kind of we've been blessed, I think, with the long tenure of a lot of individuals who have developed a great amount of expertise and have worked diligently on behalf of the city. So it's a small number of individuals. I think as time goes on, the cases that we see, just because of the way the marketplace is and the fact that people don't stay with one place as long as they used to. I think we're going to see less and less of that, but I'm not going to begrudge anybody who has followed the rules from taking home what they've qualified for. Yes, sir. Stuart.
Two quick questions, please.
Stuart, speak more directly into the microphone if you could.
Two quick questions, please. Okay?
Yes, and name and address for the record, please.
913 Arrow Parkway, 32712. Okay? First of all, am I right in thinking that pensions are related to the length, to the earnings during a period?
State that question one more time.
Am I right in thinking that pensions would be related to the earnings during the period of employment?
Well, pensions, I'm no expert on pensions. I'll state what I know. Pensions are based on your length of service and your payment, especially your payment over the last few years of your employment with the city. Correct?
So that it seems to me that had you stayed in one position that period, you'd still be getting a comparable pension. Okay?
Well, again, I'm no expert on pensions, but pensions are figured and qualified by pension experts. I know that. We have outside contractors from a couple different companies who help us administer our pensions. And as far as I'm able to determine, all of the pension calculations are figured on an up-and-up basis. So.
Okay. So I don't see this as a major issue. The other question while we're on this topic, if I may, is what is likely to be the remuneration of a new city administrator that you're seeking to appoint?
We've advertised the position in the pay grade that starts at about 111. And, we're going to let the marketplace tell us, what the proper compensation should be. The way that the city's hiring policies are is if you get a person who is extraordinarily qualified, you're allowed to go to the median that's in that pay grade, and you're allowed to exceed the median based on, again, the qualifications of the individual. So I will just say, I was planning to say this next, we've advertised for the position. We're conducting a national search. We've placed the job postings on the National League of Cities website. We've posted it with the ICMA, the International City Managers Association. We've posted it on our website. So we're conducting a national search. We've asked for resumes, and when somebody sends us a resume, then we're going to send them a packet of information that they can then answer and address more specific questions that we have. We'll take all of the packets that we get back. We're going to establish a search committee of, I'd like to do 3 people in-house, 3 people from the community, and chaired by myself, and we'll go through those packets that we get back, and we'll develop some candidates that we can then present to the council. Hold on, Dr. Shackelford.
But would you not be able to give us a range, minimum, maximum?
What's the maximum in that grade? Do you know? I don't know the maximum. Stuart, I'll have to find out and get back to you.
Thank you.
Dr. Shackelford.
I'd like to share something with the council, if I may. We're talking about a new city manager.
City administrator is the title.
Okay, say city manager.
Okay.
My name is Ray Shackelford, 2082 Carpathian Drive. I have been coming to the city council meeting for many of times, and I've heard this mayor and the city council talk about being transparent. So as we move forward in the selection of our new city administrator, city manager, I have proposed a plan for consideration. I do concur that we must do a national search in professional publications and not just on the city website. Before you have a proposal for consideration. I think we must engage the public in this process. If we can hold a public forum for alcohol sales, we should be able to hold a public forum for any candidate that we have under consideration to be the city administrator or city manager. So, in short, I would appreciate consideration to the proposal I have submitted. In the proposal I have submitted, I am requesting that each council member select a person to be on that selection committee, with the mayor selecting 3 people for that selection committee. I'm also requesting that that selection committee identify the 3 top candidates and submit their information to the mayor and the city council. I'm requesting that a public forum to be held on the same day for all candidates in separate appearances, that questions come from the selection committee, come from the public, come from the staff, and of course the mayor and the city council. I think it's important that we engage the citizens of Apopka in this process. So I take any questions that you may have.
Well, let me just speak for myself. Here's what I thank you for your proposal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to consult with there's a group of people. They're now called senior advisors. They used to be called range riders with the International City Managers Association. Consult with them on how to run a proper search process. And I'll certainly take your suggestions and float your suggestions by them. At first blush, the idea of having a public forum with 3 potential candidates sounds a little unwieldy, and I'm not sure that the candidates themselves might appreciate something like that. So given that the fact that they probably have other jobs in other markets, so I'm just going to say I'll float what you've got by some experts, and again develop a process that is as fair and transparent as we can possibly make it.
Okay. Just for information point, I am a former city councilman, and we went through a similar process to replace the city manager.
Okay.
Also, too, from an organizational management perspective, it is important that we engage the people that's going to be impacted by this person.
Mm-hmm.
And with respect to the public forum, those 3 candidates will come in at different times. We all know that secrets are not kept. When people apply for a position, the information will get out. So I appreciate your consideration for the proposal very much. Also, while I'm up here, I'd like to follow up on 3 concerns I have briefly. As you know, every time I get an opportunity to speak, I'm going to talk about a jobs program for our young people and community organizations for our young people. I am also going to follow up on the desire and the request for policy and procedures for minority and women contractors. It amazes me that we can fast track policies for alcohol sales, but we cannot fast track policy and goals for 50% of the population. I have a concern about that. And also, last but not least, I would hope that you would take in consideration what Ms. Dean mentioned last time about absentee landowners over in South Apopka. If we are going to grow as one Apopka, we must make sure that the total community is involved in the economic development process. We cannot shortchange anybody in the process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Shackelford. Anyone else on this issue? Yes, sir. Mr. Heaton, correct?
I'm Michael Heaton, 2948 Poncan Meadow Drive, Apopka 32712. I'm appalled at the latest decisions made by this governing administration in our city of Apopka. The decision to hire Mr. Richard Anderson as a consultant and additionally as a lobbyist in Tallahassee and Washington for $264,000 per year is ridiculous. First of all, he resigned as the chief administrative officer, which to me means he does not want to work for the city. Secondly, you not only offer him a consulting position, but you want him to be a lobbyist in Tallahassee and Washington. Richard has never been a lobbyist, and you pay him a fee equal to the amount paid to existing lobbyists, which means we get less experience with less quality for the same cost. What kind of value is this? You violated one of the most basic concepts of business management, diversification. Mayor Kilsheimer, you justified these decisions by saying that Richard knows all the people to contact and is working on existing projects. Well, it's your job to ask Richard who these people are and to get the information on these projects. Diversification is very important in the event that one person is unable to perform his duties for whatever reason. Now you have compounded the issue by putting more eggs in the same basket by wanting him to be a lobbyist also. After revelations this past week regarding $345,000 in back sick pay, personal pays, and unused vacation time, and this new 2-year consulting agreement, you should be questioning the integrity of Richard Anderson. And does he really have the best interests of Apopka in mind? If he can command this sort of money from our city, I think the legality of the agreement, which was never presented to the City Council for ratification regarding the sick day check, should be revisited by a disinterested attorney. When you, the mayor, voted yourself a $135,000 pay increase after the first month in office, when Commissioner Ruth in his motion stated that he wanted his mayor to be on an even pay scale of the people he'll be meeting with. Now you hire Richard Anderson to meet with these people when you're being highly compensated to do this. It appears that we are amid a downward, out-of-control spiral of finances, and you need to bite the bullet and work harder to stop this trend. If this was your own private business, you would not have our taxpayer funds to keep throwing at issues, and you would have to put your nose to the grindstone, use your best business management skills, and turn this out-of-control trend around. I recently read a quotation by a successful businessman by the name of Warren Buffett. Quote, "The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything." Mayor, you need to begin to say no more often. Create a positive work atmosphere among your staff by demonstrating your own hard work, and get this administration moving forward with better management decisions for the hardworking taxpayers in the city of Apopka. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heaton. Here, here. All right. Anyone else from the public? Sue.
I listened to all of this about Richard, and I too am appalled at the amount of money that he walked off with. But I think we're venting at the wrong people. Somebody set it all up, and that was John Land. He's the one that started the ball rolling. And the gentlemen here that were part of the council, what happened? How could he possibly get away with that and walk off with all that money? I don't understand. I can't believe it's legal.
Here's, again, just to revisit. I'm sorry, Dr. Shockley. Just to revisit. We could have had a fight about it. Could have fought. Fighting about it, in my judgment, is not productive, is divisive, would have led to an emotional split. I mean, emotions are run high enough around the city of Apopka already. And it's my judgment that the best way to move forward is to put what's in the past in the past. To litigate water that has already gone under the bridge is in my judgment, not not a productive use of time. So we've got things to do. We've got things to, there's a lot coming at the city. And by the way, City of Apopka, it is very significant that the City of Apopka is the only city in Orange County that did not raise taxes this year. City of Apopka's millage rate, we went with the rollback rate. Only city in Central Florida went with the rollback rate. Let me tell you, among the things that means is that the City of Apopka runs very lean. We have the lowest per capita number of employees in all of Orange County. We run very lean. To have a fight about things that you're going to be unsure whether you're going to win or not means that you're going to take this small per capita staff and divide them and make them spend time on issues and on discussions that are just not productive. So all of that weighed into the decision making that went into this. So we're moving forward. What's in the past is in the past. We've got a number of projects that are quite honestly are very exciting. The stuff that can happen as a result of not just the Florida Hospital project, but the development that's going to take place in that 2-mile radius around the Florida Hospital project. We're all going to stand back in 4 or 5 years and say, it's just great. It's just great because of all the things that we're talking about. The downtown development project, it's going to happen. And it's going to be exciting. And it's going to be the kind of thing that's going to bring about all of the things that all residents of Apopka have been talking about. The shopping and the dining options, the gathering places, the places for some kind of art and cultural programs. All of that is going to happen. And it's all kind of in process. And Richard has kicked it off. And quite honestly, I know what Mr. Heaton said about, the fact that, Richard is just kind of starting out as a lobbyist. Believe me, I've seen him in action. You go to Tallahassee, go to Washington, he commands a lot of respect already because of the experience that he's had, the connections that he's got. I'm quite confident that he will be as effective as anybody on arguing on behalf of the City of Apopka. Who knows Apopka better, right? Who has more knowledge about what has gone on here in the last 45 to 50, 60 years than Richard? He knows it all. So I'm willing to say that the contract was the contract. The numbers are the numbers. To fight about it is divisive. Let's move forward. Let's go forward. Let's get the kinds of things done that we know are coming about. Let's continue to operate the city on this lean basis that is the best deal for the taxpayers in Orange County. And let's move forward. And that's where I'm at. So, listen. At some point we've got to agree to disagree, because I get the people that want to disagree about this, but that's the position that I'm taking.
Mr. Mayor,
come back to the mic.
50 years.
Come back to the mic, please.
He's got 40, 50 years experience. I say that my council right here, if I collectively figure their experience, it's over 100 years. And yet they have to have somebody receive a paying job after retirement. I have nothing against pensions. I collect plenty of them myself. I collect one from Uncle Sam for my military service. I collect one from the state of New Jersey for my professional service. I collect one from Uncle down in Washington because I'm on Social Security. So I don't care. But what I do care is when we have to pay a double dipper. We don't need double dippers. If you can't live on your retirement, then you shouldn't retire. You should continue to work. You should continue to be a productive person, but don't take a job that's a cushion, that sounds like a plum. And I don't want to see my council hiring plums. It's just not right. When there are plenty of people who can talk. Arbitration, being able to filibuster, I'll keep you here for 5 hours if you don't stop me from talking, and if I don't stay quiet for 10 seconds, you can't stop me. And I don't care about the thing over there or not. You can have him come and force me out of here, but boy, you'd pay for that. So I know what a lobbyist does. Like I said, there's canons to being a lobbyist. You just can't be a lobbyist because you trust a person's background. You made a recommendation, and that was a good recommendation. But out of 5 people here, only 1 junior opposed it. Somebody else should have opposed. Maybe even 3 of you should have opposed it, because it needed more public discussion. I think we went too fast, Mr. Mayor. I think we went on sentiment. Again, I can live very comfortably on the money I make. Would I take another? Sure I would. Would I take a plum making $1 million a year? You bet your life I would. But you guys are doing a great job. And I don't condemn anybody who gets a retirement, because you knew that when you took the job. You knew there was a retirement coming at the end of the rainbow. And I knew there were several of them coming at my rainbow, and I put my life on the line to make sure I got one. That's why I collect 80% for my military time. But it's worth it. I mean, I did a lot out there. I almost got killed several times. These guys back here who wear the uniform, they face it every day of their life. They face the chance that they may not come home. When they leave the house and they kiss their wife and babies goodbye, that may be the last time they're going to see them. And all this equipment they wear is fine, except now all the TV is teaching is don't shoot the guy in the chest anymore. Shoot him in the knees. And then when he's down, put one in his head. These guys out there aren't stupid. They know how to be thieves. That's why they're thieves. And they know how to be murderers. That's why they're murderers. And a lot of them have worked for the mafia. Trust me.
Okay.
And I know the mafia because I fought them in New Jersey. The Gambinos and the rest of them, they had actually kept a pig farm because pigs get rid of a body in 20 seconds.
Let's come back to the topic. Can we come back to the topic? All right.
I love you guys. I really do.
Thank you.
I think you need better caucus meetings.
Thank you. All right. Let's stick to the topic, right? One more comment, Dr. Shackelford? Okay.
Ray Shackelford, 2082 Carpethania Drive. I just want to say I concur and agree 150% with Mayor Kirschheimer and Commissioner Dean. We need to move forward. I am more interested about our children getting jobs. I'm more interested about community organizations supporting our children. I'm more interested about economic development within the total city of Apopka. I'm interested in diversity within city government. So we live and learn. And as I stated, I am a former city councilman, and I have seen how effective a city manager can be by being a lobbyist in the great state of Texas. So we need to move forward. We have a right to disagree without being disagreeable. But let's think about one Apopka and let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shackelford. All right, Stuart.
One other quick piece of information, please. What would it have cost the city if Richard Anderson had been fired?
That was a considerable number, and the number the number was in roughly around $800,000. I don't have the specific number available. We added it all up, all of the different things that he would have been entitled to. Came to about that number. Okay? All right. Mr. Rankin.
David Rankin, 1420 West Orange Blossom Trail. I think we're all missing the point right here, okay? Richard's been around a long time. This conversation should have been had before the agreement was signed with him, not after the fact. We're just plowing old ground. But what you have to understand is that there's a lot of good things that have happened over the last 42 years during Richard's tenure, okay? And if those good things, you got to give him credit for. And there's some bad things you got to give him credit for. So if you're going to lay the bad at him, you also have to lay the good ones at his feet. I take exception to the fact that they say all of this started with Mayor John Land. It did not. Richard had a contract. He was a contract employee with the city. The contract was called for, I believe it was 40 weeks of pay should he be fired without cause. That equated to about $120,000, not the $800,000 that you talked about. That's totally separate. It has to do with the vacation time, the sick time, and all of that, okay? But there's a certain element in this town that for whatever reason doesn't like Richard Anderson, okay? And there's certain folks on this city commission, and they know who they are, that don't like Richard. And I'm not going to name names or call anyone out. But at the end of the day, there were folks in this town that weren't going to be happy unless Richard left the city with only the clothes on his back. And that's totally unfair, okay? So the biggest problem that I see in this entire negotiation is that, for lack of a better term, Richard held all the cards. He was intimately familiar with the Town Center project. He was intimately familiar with the Kelly Park Crossings project. He was intimately familiar with the Florida Hospital project. And the fact that they say, okay, we're not going to pay you, or that instead of paying you $120,000 to resign and ride off into the sunset, and instead give you a contract that's worth $528,000 over 2 years, tells me and tells Mayor Kilzheimer that he was more valuable to the city in that capacity than he was to just completely abandon it altogether. And I think going along with what Mayor Kilzheimer says is that 5 years from now, when you look at the tax base of what these 3 projects bring to the city of Apopka, $528,000 is a drop in the bucket. But what I will admonish you for, Mayor, is that the agreement was signed before, literally hours before the city commission meeting, and in the name of transparency, which has been preached about for the last 4 months, we could have saved everybody a lot of time and heartache if the city commission could have been made aware of it days before and had a chance to digest it, take input from the community, discuss it, and then vote on it. But it's water under the bridge. Richard's done a fantastic job. I have total confidence that he'll continue to do a great job on behalf of the city, because he is one of the most capable public servants I've ever encountered. Thank you.
Thank you.
One question for you, sir.
What? You're gonna have to address the chair, Vic. Vic. I'm sorry. I'm trying. If you're gonna address the chamber, you have to address the chair.
It's Vic Backenoff. I have one question for that. Let's take a what if, and I've done this many times in my career. What if, and heaven forbid, this person who is so great and does a great job and nobody takes that away from him, but what would happen to the city of Apopka if he passed away? Would we erase it off the map because nobody else can run it? Would we say it's all over because the greatest man in the world? Even the world continued on when they crucified Jesus. So don't tell me that one person is going to make a difference. I know that there are many, many people. In fact, the man who just spoke probably has enough background to do the job. But he chose to say something for the gentleman who took retirement. Okay, take retirement. You deserve it. You worked hard for it. But also, what if you were no longer here? What if your retirement took you to Saudi Arabia and you're no longer available? Are we going to lose the city of Apopka? I don't think so. I think you guys would come up with something, even if you had to run it yourself.
Okay. All right. I appreciate the discussion. And let's move forward. One other thing that I'd like to bring to the council under the mayor's report, as has been widely reported in the news media, there are a number of golf courses throughout the Central Florida, throughout the state of Florida, that are struggling financially. And we've seen cases in other parts of the Metro Orlando region where golf courses have closed, and the homeowners in those communities, who live on the golf courses have been severely affected. When a golf course closes, a home can lose its value by as much as 20%, maybe even more. Those conditions are affecting both the golf courses in the Apopka community. We've got both of those courses have ownership that is struggling with the costs, and so the question that I want to bring before the council today, and this is a philosophical question, because there are not a lot of specifics that are attached to this, but there is the prospect of the city facilitating a solution whereby the residents of those communities would possibly form some kind of organization, maybe a special district, whereby the money could be assessed by the residents themselves against themselves in order to assure the future maintenance of the land that is those golf courses. And so what I've asked the staff to do is to put together some draft options that we'll be presenting to you at the next council meeting. But I want to present this idea just as a way of a heads up and have some kind of discussion today about whether or not we're philosophically amenable to the idea of facilitating a solution for these private courses. I think here's where I am on this. Both golf courses they're played by the public, but they're significant parts of the landscape and the streetscape in each respective community. And we're talking about Rock Springs Ridge and Arrow Estate. We've already seen, like I said, Sable Point. We've seen the holes that Arrow has abandoned, and we've seen how they look today. They're overgrown. They're unkempt. Fortunately, the one hole that's off of Vic Road is kind of off to the side of the road in an area that's wooded kind of already, so it's not terribly unsightly. But in places like Sable Point, the unsightliness of the golf course is a serious community issue. And I can just imagine what if we have to look at unsightly conditions in both Rock Springs Ridge and Arrow Estate, what that's going to mean to the property values and what that's going to mean just to the look and feel of the community. So the question is, are you willing to proceed on the idea of facilitating some solution for the ownership with these two courses?
I mean, is that something that you've discussed already with the HOAs? Because I know Arrow Estate has, Commissioner Adams.
We've had preliminary discussions with the head of the HOA, and there's a group of homeowners in Arrow who's kind of taking responsibility at Arrow. So, so to just further answer that question, the leadership of the HOAs has expressed a willingness to explore this idea in both Arrow and Rock Springs Ridge. Right.
I mean, I live at Rock Springs Ridge, and I live on the golf course, and so I don't understand what the HOA is asking the city to do.
Well, just for example, there are a couple of options, and again, we don't have anything on paper to present to you, but there is the prospect of forming either a independent district or a dependent district, and there are ramifications to each. Under both scenarios, though, the district would be made up of the homeowners of that respective community. They would have to vote to assess themselves something. The options could be in Rock Springs Ridge, for example, to maintain it, to continue to maintain it as a golf course, where you would kind of know and understand the parameters of what you're trying to spend, or maintain it in some other fashion. Parkland, for example, or just open space.
And this is in the event that the owner of the golf course walks away from it.
The owner, correct, and not in the event. That's a clear and distinct reality. Because the owners of that one have said that they're no longer interested in continuing to maintain that as a golf course, but are willing to work with us to facilitate some kind of solution.
All right, so he's willing to stay on board if the homeowners help him maintain it. That's
the general parameter, right?
No. If he stays on board, then he should be responsible for the golf course,
Well,
period. It's his golf course.
Correct. But they're not making any money out there. They're losing money. And who's going to operate a business that continues to lose money?
Okay, as a homeowner at Rock Springs Ridge, he knew that when he took the golf course.
Right.
He did.
But if you operated a 7-Eleven, for example, and you weren't making any money at the 7-Eleven or convenience store, I beg your pardon? All right. So if you weren't making any money at the 7-Eleven, it wouldn't be in your best interest to continue operating the 7-Eleven at a loss. It's the same thing. If you aren't making any money at your business, it doesn't matter what type of business you're operating. If you're not making any money, if you're in fact losing money, it doesn't make any sense to continue operating. So at that point, given the fact that it's a golf course, there are certain, certain things that you can do, but.
Okay. So, the homeowners want to save the golf course because, like you said, it's part of the landscape. It's part of who Apopka is and Rock Springs Ridge is. My concern, no longer now as a property owner, is as a city official. Where is our involvement in it? Is it something else we're going to end up taking care of, which I don't think we should do?
Well, I'm not proposing that the city get directly involved in the ownership or the maintenance of either of those properties. It's a matter of presenting it to the residents and getting the residents to decide for themselves what they want to do.
So our involvement will be to help the residents?
Facilitate.
All right, I can agree with that,
Okay?
Yep.
I think the obvious answer is yes. It's part of keeping our community as a whole, and, like you say, home values drop considerably, but it's got to be up to each individual community, the way I understand it.
All right.
Yeah, we're interested.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. Okay, that's the end of the mayor's report. We'll move to, come back to my agenda. Is there any old business council? Any old business public? Any new business council?
I do have some sheets from the public on old business.
Okay.
Susan Shetram, did you want to speak again?
No, thank you.
Okay. Leanne Bellinger on the downtown Apopka.
Leanne Bellinger, 2084 Tournament Drive. Everybody's been waxing poetic about the new businesses that are going to be coming around 429 and the Kelly Parks crossing. But it seems like all of you have forgotten the long-term residents here in Apopka, downtown Apopka. We've been here 20, 30, 40, some of them longer. And we're still waiting on something to happen down here. And there's nothing. Nobody's talking about it. There's not a decent restaurant to go to for breakfast, other than Perkins or Robinson's if you can get in. You can't go out for a decent dinner, except for two decent locations in town. And I don't see anything. Is anybody being proactive in contacting anybody to come to, that might be interested in putting a restaurant here in Apopka? I mean, we were told no more fast food restaurants. Well, since Mr. Mayor took office, we've gotten 2 new Taco Bells within 4 miles of each other. I'm tired of fast food restaurants. I want a decent place where I can go sit down, order a nice breakfast, and have a cup of coffee, and not be in a line of 42 people wanting to buy a quick breakfast. I'd like to be able to go out to a dinner here. I don't want to go to Altamont Springs or to Mount Dora or anywhere else to spend my money. I live here in Apopka. What's being done for the long-term residents here? Thank you.
Thank you. And the answer to your question is yes, it is being worked on. It's just not soup yet, to use the old expression. There's not enough to be able to make a public announcement because it's being worked on. There's just a lot of preparation that goes into that kind of the kind of things that we're talking about. You have to decide what your marketplace is, who the people are that you're trying to attract, what mix of stores or mix of opportunities will address that issue. And all of that is being worked on actively as we speak. So the answer to your question is yes. It's just not, there's not enough there to be able to be specific with you. Okay? All right. Any other old business, council?
Yes, sir. Willie Sims.
I'm not here to beat on you. I'm just here to find out some information. I'm from Lake Hammer Subdivision, 16.
Could you speak more directly into the microphone?
Lake Hammer Subdivision, 1610 Calicourt, Apopka, Florida. We've been having an issue with flood coming down in our subdivision, and the last mayor was here. He came out and looked at it, and we've supposed to have been working on it, but nothing never got fixed. So I go to the public service, try to get help. They say it's too old a thing, and they can't do nothing for it because we've been there since '93. But I got pictures showing how the water just running from Sheila Oaks down into our subdivision where the 8 homes is behind Sheila Oaks, and is drowning our backyard out. And I'm just here today to find out why we've been there since '93. We can't get no help from nobody.
All right. After the meeting's over, can you and I circle back with our public services director, and we'll see what we can do. Okay? All right. Old business, council.
Suzanne Kidd? No? And Michael Heaton, did you want to speak again? Yes.
Okay. Any new business, council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Root.
on the addition to the city's haste to run out and fill the city manager's position or city administrator.
Did you say on the haste?
Or it seems like, I guess the end is October the 17th.
For accepting
applications.
Resumes. Right.
It looks like it's a foregone conclusion that spot's going to be filled.
Well, we're going to accept resumes until then, send out the packets, receive the packets back. I don't think we have a deadline. We haven't set a deadline for accepting the packets back yet, right? So we'll establish a deadline for having everybody return the packets, and then we'll have this search process, committee process, to go through them and select some candidates. My goal is to do it as soon as possible, but with not excessive haste, I guess.
Okay. Well, I had a lot of concerns. I know, 4 months ago when we set your salary, I was really excited about the direction we were heading. I'm really unclear on the placing somebody of that importance in that position without clarification how the current charter we have, if the way our current charter is written, if that position's filled and you and that person ever come at odds with one another, de facto, we're going to be right back where we are right now with a unfunctional city. Because with that position filled and three people in favor of one person's ideal, you can move a city in any direction you want from either person, a strong mayor or a city manager. Because in the way the charter is written, until that all's clarified, you could in essence have a strong mayor and a strong manager and the city stop as a whole.
Well, I think part of the answer to your question is to look at how other communities with strong mayors and administrators work. So, for example, City of Orlando has Mayor Buddy Dyer, who's a strong mayor, but they also have the city administrator who functions as the kind of the head of the staff, running the staff and running kind of the organizational day-to-day operations of the staff. Orange County has Mayor Teresa Jacobs, who's the strong mayor, but they have an administrator, Achit Lachandani, who has worked as the chief administrator under at least 2 additional mayors, right? And again, works very well coordinating the day-to-day activities and allowing the mayor, Mayor Jacobs, in the case of Mayor Jacobs, allowing her to kind of really get more deeply involved at the policy level. So I think that we're going to, when we bring a new administrator on, we'll have a contract, we'll have all of the duties and responsibilities will be clear, the public will all have a chance to see.
We've already changed the charter. The contract already exists.
The charter, well...
The charter is the charter. It can't, unless it's ratified or unless it's changed by the public, you can't just arbitrarily change it.
The charter is one line. With regards to the city administrator, the charter merely says that the mayor shall appoint a city administrator, which means that you have to have one versus before we didn't have to have one. So if the charter hadn't changed, for example...
The duties of the manager is where it gets convoluted, because the duties of the manager, the day-to-day operations, and department heads answer to him, not you.
It'll be spelled out in the contract, which you'll have to get a chance to look at.
I hope.
Overall, I mean,
don't work really hard on
I'm intending to hire somebody who wants to, work with me, not against me. So.
I know that. That's all great. That's all fine and good until you have a disagreement.
Well, we'll spell it out.
Okay.
That's what chain of command is all about, and that's what you'll spell out in the contract.
I want you to be really careful on that.
We'll spell out chain of command, as the city attorney mentions. Okay. Any other new business, council?
Yeah, I'm going to forego rambling. I'm going to read what I have to say.
Okay.
I probably served this community for 38 years as commissioner, and during that time I've done all that I could do to ensure that we deliver services to taxpayers with the highest quality at the lowest cost. I will admit that I became spoiled by the absence of major controversy and the lifestyle of our city. We are recognized statewide for our efficiencies and level of service in our community. The past 6 months have been most embarrassing during my tenure, and I did not see things improving by staying our current course. The current administration continues to demonstrate the lack of leadership and ability to guide the city into the future. The list includes, it's not limited to, the following actions, and I'm sure you've heard most of them, and I'll repeat them. Self-approving a salary of $150,000 with no credentials to justify the same. Firing the city attorney who had served the city for 30 years well. Hiring a longtime personal friend as a replacement with no prior information provided to commissioners. Hiring a consultant to write a report slanted towards showing the city as a dysfunctional organization requiring new best practices. Spending thousands of dollars to construct and furnish a lavish suite of offices. Being spoon-fed through the budgeting process and continuing to remind everyone that Budgeting 101 was needed, as this was a first-time event when it was actually a third-time event as far as involvement. Working with the previous CAO and structuring an agreement for his retirement and continuing future services without informing the commission that this was being considered. Failing to provide the commission with a copy of the final agreement. If the CAO's office had not provided that to us 3 hours prior to the meeting, we would not have known about it until it came up under the mayor's report. When asked who was going to run the city during this absence, the answer was, we have very capable department heads, with the assumption they were all going to remain with the city. Failing to bring up the fact at the same meeting that with the retirement of the CAO, which I've already mentioned, would be a very substantial additional financial consequence. Due to all of these circumstances, my conclusion is that we need a new course of action. And I think I'm going to put it in the form of a motion so that we can get the information. I'd like to move that we instruct our city attorney to provide us by the next meeting with some guidelines and a timeline as to what it takes to propose a charter change from our strong mayor form of government to a council city manager form of government. I feel like we need a professional that knows how to run a city. I think we have a mayor that will do a good job running meetings, cutting ribbons, and kissing babies. But I think as far as the day-to-day running of the city, we really need to, which I didn't think I would ever say this, but I think we need to look at the avenue, see what's available, and weigh everything out as far as looking at hiring a full-time city manager, and that would require a charter change. The last charter change we did was just as a city administrator, but what I'm proposing is to show the options and let us know how that's done. I put that in the form of a motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Well, I'll open the line of discussion because I took there's a lot of stuff in what you said that I agree with. There's a lot of stuff in that stuff that you facilitated. And, if you would have ran for mayor, I'd have probably voted for you. But I get Mr. Rankin goes after me. I don't have a problem with Mr. Anderson. The problem I have is the $6,000 in every employee before that. The problem I have with the way the city's running is I got footprints in the past and I got footprints in the future, and I want a better Apopka. But all we're doing is facilitating certain individuals. Everybody has this illusion that Richards ran the city for the last 40 years. I disagree. John Land ran the city for the last 40 years with your help. There was 2 city managers up until 8 years ago. Richards only sat at the helm for 8 years. I take offense to everybody giving credit where credit doesn't lie. I have a lot of respect in the mayor that we have. I supported the mayor that we currently got. Although I disagree with a lot of stuff we're doing, I still support the ideal, the direction we're heading. And I'll end my little rant with that.
All right. Well, hold on 1 second. Hold on. We're having discussion at the council level. We'll open it up for the public in a second. Okay? Any further discussion by the council?
So there's a motion and a second, so the next part would be?
To direct the city attorney to?
Provide us with guidelines and timelines as far as what it would take as far as coming up with a referendum for a charter change. That's what I'd like to know.
Okay, that's the motion. The motion is to direct the city attorney to come up with guidelines and recommendations on how to effect a charter change.
So we either agree or disagree at this point. We either say...
To direct
aye
the
or
city
no.
attorney. The motion is to direct the city attorney to do that research. Okay. Any discussion by the public? Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3. Sue Kidd.
Suzanne Kidd, 1260 Lexington Parkway. I am recalling for about the last year and a half, we had a number of charter meetings that were initiated by Mayor Land to take a look at whether or not we wanted to make any changes to the city charter. I was one of the people who begged the mayor and the council, and I stood right here before you back last October and begged you not to send the charter change, to put the administrator into the charter, not to send it to the citizens for voting, because they had not had a real charter commission that would explore all the different options, including the one that you, Mr. Aerosmith, have suggested today. You all chose not to do that. So I find this extremely expedient for you to bring such a motion before the council, and I have thought this for a long time, that perhaps if you are so upset with the way things are going, perhaps the best thing for you to do would be to resign.
Tanita.
Well, I find this shocking that Commissioner Aerosmith would bring this motion up, and I'm also shocked at Commissioner Dean. I really am. The people of this town spoke when they elected Mayor Kilsheimer, and I will not vote for this charter change. I'll tell you right now, I don't know about everybody else, but I won't. And this last charter change was ridiculous. It was voted in November 2013 to make the Richard Anderson, well, not Richard Anderson, but the position, a charter officer. And then here comes December, the vote of the people that's supposed to determine it, and it was passed by 6 votes. But it was already approved and adopted back in November. Now go figure. And also, forgot what I was going to say. This last charter amendment, charter change, now you're proposing another charter change, was only by the super voters. So if anybody had newly registered, they couldn't vote in December. I'm sure the League of Women Voters would love that one. So what are we going to do now? Have another charter amendment change where only the super voters can vote again? How ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you, Tia. Mr. Brown.
My name is Vernon Brown. I live at 583 Sandwedge Loop, Apopka, Florida. This charter change business. I was in and out of the last fiasco we had about the charter change, and now here it is again less than a year later. I think what we're missing the point here is that it's evident that there's people within the city administration, for whatever reason, you're not working together. And I come up here, I could have been doing something else, an outside contract going on. But I come up here and I see this discord once again. And that's not helping our city. It's our city, it's not yours, it's our city. So if we put you in office and keep you in office, you need to find a way to go to the coffee club or the VFW or somewhere and sit down and get to know each other's true feelings, because it's evident you don't know each other's true feelings. And anything you bring before the community, I will guarantee you, if you put it before the majority of the citizens, we're going to stuff that charter change down your throat. You're not going to get away with it. That's the promise. I worked on every campaign that come through the city, whether it was a presidential campaign, whether it was a local campaign, or whether it was a state campaign. And I think I might throw my hat in for Mr. Dean's seat when he has come available. That's all I have to say.
All right. Yes, sir, Mr. Heaton.
Michael Heaton, 2948 Poncan Meadow Drive, POP 32712. I think the beginning of the discord was, and going back to the charter, I think we were all spoiled here in the city of Apopka that the city ran itself pretty well for a lot of years without any real divisive issues going on. We got spoiled. We didn't have to go to city council meetings. We knew that everything was in good hands because everybody, the mayor, the whole council, and which had changed different council people through the years. We always had faith in that they were governing our city from their heart. They lived in the city and were looking out for the best interest of the city. I think what happened here was we got a new administrative staff starts all of a sudden in April, and the first thing that happens is it appears that everything, instead of being in the best interest of the city, is now in the best interest of their own personal feelings. And that caused a lot of divisive right off the get-go, and it caused a lot of discord obviously between council members and all of the residents of the city of Apopka. So I think there was an air of discord that was started when the new administration came in by this kind of activity. And I'm not sure how that will ever end, because the air is there, and it's going to take a long time to heal that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hey, listening, I come to the conclusion that I don't want your job. I'm not going to run for a commissioner's job. I'd rather fight a hungry lion in the Coliseum. But at any rate, it came to mind that every man who is in a leader's position, as yourself, needs someone to PYA. And that someone can be the attorney, can be the administrator, can be a city manager, whatever. The only problem here with all of this rhetoric today was your consultant was also the guy that is getting all of these good things happen to him, and that looks like collusion. Well, I don't begrudge you, Mr. Mayor, 1 minute of asking for a competent advisor, because if you open your mouth and say something wrong, we cannot have it erased. It's going to be there. And his job is to make sure you don't say something that would be used against you. And the problem I see is I don't think you people have a caucus meeting. Do you ever sit down around a round table and just rap? I mean, we can't.
The Sunshine Law precludes that. So
you need to do that. You need to
call Tallahassee and tell them that, would you?
You need to talk about it before you come in here. You know, they say a very intelligent man speaks because he has something to say. An unintelligent man speaks because he wants to be heard. I consider all of you intelligent. Mr. Dean sits quietly. They're dangerous because he's always thinking. He's always thinking. Bill just opened his mouth and said something, and everybody's going like that. I want a copy of what you said, Bill, because I didn't record it like some guys are doing. Sam is a junior. He's going to ask questions like crazy. the good thing about his questions is, I learn too. But you all have a job that I would not want. And that's hard for me to say. I usually find jobs because I believe in desiderata that I would love to have. Not yours. Hell, I'd rather be one of the cops. I'd rather be one of the officers again and take my chances out there with the people that I can shoot back. You can't shoot back. You just have to sit there and listen. And then you have to control yourself. And then you have to have an administrator that you can look at, and for him to go, and you say nothing. You listen. I've seen that change in you since the first day you took over that chair. You are a listener now. And you don't make rash decisions. You might make quick ones, and you think that things can't be changed. Well, yes, they can, because that's why you're here. We, the voters, wanted a change. And those same voters can change it again. And we don't want to do that. We want to keep what we have. I think the city's being run right. I think the city deserves to stay on the map. I think the city deserves to not raise the tax rate like it hasn't for a long time. But you guys do a great job, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Ricketson raised his hand first.
John Ricketson, 400 North Park Avenue. I published the Apopka Chief. Most of you read it. I'm assuming if you don't, you're missing a good paper. Joe, this is probably not the time, but with regard to what Bill said, a good debate and a 3-2 vote doesn't work. The fact is, the conversations this afternoon have been all over the map, okay? The value of this city, folks in this room, if they are not longtime residents, moved here because of what the city offered. The city offered it for 60 years with great leadership. Whether you like it or not, you got the benefit of it. The fact is, the liabilities for the pension plans that have been mentioned are not the city's liabilities. They are the pension plans liabilities, which all of you that get a city paycheck pay into. That is not and should not have ever been included in the settlement package that's been broadcast in the media. Fact is, I think this city is going to survive, and as I said in Friday's editorial, Mayorland is not coming back. Okay, we have passed that threshold. The fact is, the city needs some cohesiveness between all of you. You're not going to get past it until the bad feelings go away. The bad feelings are not going to go away as long as we've got people jabbing. And the questions that are being asked quite often as a jab. The comments that are being made behind me or in front of me at the council meeting are because they have a motive while they're here. I would suggest if you can't bring something positive to the meeting, then maybe stay at home and read about it in the paper. And I think that you've got a big challenge ahead of you. So I would suggest that maybe we try to move forward and look at the decisions that you made without all of the facts that you had, assuming that you're right. They were made with the best of intentions for the city. Our attorney now, Cliff, would probably agree that it was in the best interest of the city to do what you did. While we may not like it, it's done. We can't change it, nor would we change it probably if we had all of the facts. The double dippers have been talking about the things that happened. Fact is, we have things that we do not have all of the facts. The transparency, Joe, you need to work on that and make sure that the folks sitting next to you know beforehand in order that they can defend. We, the media, need to know and try to get as much of the picture presented to the public as we can. The charter changes and all of the meetings going on were put in place for a reason. We had a perfect storm during the charter change meetings that was a meeting at large. That's another story, and I'll explain that to anybody that cares to listen, but the intentions of those meetings were to get the city in the hands of a public, professional city manager who was experienced and could run the city on a day-to-day basis in the event that the mayor did not win the election. That happened, but it didn't get completed the way that it should have. So we now have a situation that you have an opportunity to correct it by getting a professional city manager in place that can run it with your direction and with these guys' cooperation. and accomplish the great things that we know are going to happen in the city. What you alluded to is we don't have all of the facts about the hospital deal, and it doesn't matter what we think as a community. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. The town center is going to be built, and it's going to be to the benefit of the city. The Kelly Park Crossing, that's going to happen, like it or not. So we got a lot of good things that are going to happen, and to continue throwing rocks if the past administration is wrong. To not support you as a future administration is wrong. So let me encourage you to get together and try to make it work out with less animosity. Bill, I don't disagree with what you said, but I'm not sure that you can accomplish it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ricketson. Stuart, you're next.
Yeah, I just want to make one comment and recommend the attorney looks at one other area. This is not the only time I've seen how the sunshine laws prevent a group of responsible people from acting efficiently. To me, it is nonsense that you cannot talk about these things, given any restrictions necessary, before you come to a meeting. And I think these do need to be discussed. My question would be to the attorney, is there any way there can be a waiver or any way around it for the city of Apopka? It's just not effective that way.
You want me to answer?
The answer, Stuart, the answer to your question is there is no way around the Sunshine Law.
Are we able to raise, we're talking about lobbyists, can we raise any objection or request a modification? It does not allow, I've been on other committees who are utterly inefficient for the same reason.
Objections to the Sunshine Law are raised frequently by elected officials, throughout the state. And it's like arguing against the weather. All right. Any further discussion from the public?
I think just to clarify one thing, I'm asking for information. That was the basis of my motion, just asking for information at this point. And what has led to this point is being backed into a corner by not having any information and not being transparent and having the news media call me with these announcements that I know nothing about. And we're a commission sitting up here. We're 5 people elected by the community. And to me, that's our right to know it, one way or the other. We're supposed to know it before everybody else knows it so that we can make a logical decision. And that's been the problem from day one, is we don't get that information internally. And there is a way to do it without talking to each other, and we just don't get it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to vote against the motion. I think that trying to change the charter on this one specific issue is a knee-jerk reaction to some of the things that have gone on here in the last few months. I think that we need a large overall discussion about the charter. I'd like to, and I, even during the campaign, proposed the idea we should start over again and talk about every issue that is that ought to be discussed in an authentic charter review process. And I think when we get a new administrator on board and we get some of the issues settled that we have, we can pick up that discussion and talk about a real charter review process that starts from stem to stern, goes through the charter all the way through, and does it in a comprehensive, organized, calm fashion. And so, I am, by the way, completely open to the idea of discussing whether or not, as part of that overall thorough charter review process, whether we want to go from a strong mayor form of government to a council manager form of government. I think that's a worthy discussion to have. I just don't think doing it in a knee-jerk fashion is good for the city as a whole. So I'm going to vote against the motion. Any further discussion by the council? If not, we'll vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Nay.
Can you do that in a roll call?
Can we do it in a roll call?
I
Okay.
don't understand what we're voting for right now.
Well, the motion was to ask the city attorney to come back with information about what it would take to change from a strong mayor to a council manager form of government.
Okay. So then let's put it
Okay,
away.
all right, so
This is gonna
roll call
come out.
vote. Nay. Commissioner Ruth votes nay. Commissioner Aerosmith? Commissioner Velasquez?
Nay.
Commissioner Dean? And the chair votes nay. The motion fails 4-1. Okay. Any further, that was new business council, any new business public? Seeing no business, yes, sir.
This ain't working? Okay.
Name and address for the record.
My name is Bobby Reed, 651 O'Leary Court. The only thing I want to know, is there any possibility y'all can clean the cattails out of my fishing hole up at Dream Lake? It's creeping over there, I can't get to my fish. I know it's been cleaned out before.
We'll bring that up.
But it's never got this, to this extent.
Bring that up with Public Services after the meeting. How about that?
Okay, sounds good to me.
All right. Any other new business? If not, we're adjourned.